Hi everyone and welcome back to the Crafty Yellow Camper, and today I wanted to show you a card using the Greatest Journey stamp set, which is in the spring seasonal catalogue. The stamp set itself has some really nice tree images, some grasses, some little tiny dandelions there and some flowers, and then these stars. More dandelions there, a moon, and then several greetings. So we've got, this moment is the start of something great. I'm so inspired by your courage. You belong among the stars. Mountains of thanks. I'm wishing you joy in this next adventure. Oh, and we're in this together. So lots and lots of possibilities with this stamp set. Obviously, you've got thank you cards. This moment is the start of something great. You could use that on a wedding card, on a new baby card. You've got so inspired by your courage for somebody that's going through a tough time or is perhaps ill. Yeah, lots and lots of different options with the stamp set itself. And then these are the dies that go with it, and these are the reason that I wanted that stamp set. I mean, I love the greetings, but these dies are what really drew me to the stamp set. So we've got lots of different options for not just men's cards but women's cards as well. So you've got a runner, you've got somebody on a bike, which I suspect is meant to be a BMX bike, but it could be used as a mountain bike too. You've got a walker with his little lantern. And then you've got a tent, 3 different sizes of clouds, a crescent moon, some foliage, and then you've got the outline of the tent there, so you can do it in 2 different colours. And this, which cuts a sort of a mountain range or scenery. I'm not actually quite sure. I've just realised what this is. It's a walking pole, isn't it? Right, okay, there we go. Okay, and then you've got the outline dies for the main part of the foliage and the trees there. So they go round this foliage here and the trees there. So lots and lots and lots and lots of different options there. Now, as part of the suite, there are these papers which are called Enjoy the Journey 12 by 12s, and they feature Coastal Cabana, Garden Green, Highland Heather, Mango Melody, Melon Mambo, Polished Pink, Pumpkin Pie and Starry Sky. So they are all sort of scenery based papers. So I've already cut one up, which is the mountaintops there. Just to show you, that's the pattern on the other side. It's almost sort of like not a plaid exactly, but yeah. And just to show you that whole sheet, it's got the papers down the, green mountains at the bottom. So you've got purple mountains on one side, green mountains on the other. So what else have we got? We've got this sort of stylized forest of trees, and that's got this on the background. I sort of like it, but it makes my eyes hurt. You've got this, which is I'm not entirely sure what that's meant to be. The sky, I suppose, the night sky, because you've got clouds down this end and sort of almost like the northern lights, I suppose. You could ink that. And then you've got these little triangles on the back in a nice yellow, Mango Melody, I think. And then you've got this one. So I love it when Stampin' Up do this. So you've got a moon and a pinky sort of sunset one end, and then the moon and a sort of a more green and almost into purples sunset the other end, and that's got a pink Mango Melody on the back. But I like it when they do this because you can cut that down the middle and get 2 lots of cards out of that. This is the same sort of thing. This has got the sort of stylized mountain ranges on it and the night sky on the back. And I think there's one more. Yeah, the same again, the stylized skies in the orange tones and then some of the pinkier tones over that side. And that's got this sort of chevron pattern on the back. So lots of options there. You could stamp on some of the more stylized ones. Well, you can stamp on all of them, but the ones that don't sort of have a definite mountain range or anything like that on it would be really good for heat embossing on. And we are going to do a little bit of that today. Okay, so that's the papers. That's the piece I want to use. That's the piece I decided not to use. And then there are some twine, a pack of 3 baker's twines that go with it. So that's the Coastal Cabana one, that's the orangey one, pumpkin pie, and then that green one, I suspect, did I say garden green? It looks almost like old olive. So yeah, garden green, Coastal Cabana, pumpkin pie. Yeah, so those that coordinate really nicely with the papers as well. So we'll see if we can manage to get those in. Right, now the card I'm going to make today, I saw this card on the Facebook page that we have for demonstrators, and a lady had designed this card for one of her events. Her name was, or the name on her blog is Sue Stampfield, which, if Stampfield is actually her surname, is a very appropriate surname. And she has called it a flying seagull card. So she does sell a tutorial to it with all the measurements, but I like a challenge. I love an engineering challenge. So I wanted to see if I could work out how to make it. And it's not that I'm being tight and not buying your, not buying Sue's tutorial, which I normally would. I just like a challenge. If I see a fancy fold, I like to try and work out how it's done. I'm also not sure if she's an American demonstrator, and if she is, their paper is a slightly different size to ours. So I've looked carefully at her card, and I think this is the way to make it, but this is the way I'm going to make it in centimetres. So thank you for sharing your card, Sue, or Susan. And yeah, your cards are all beautiful that you made. So this is my version of it, okay, using centimetres and UK paper. So this is half of a sheet, A4 sheet of Starry Sky. It's cut in half at 10.5 centimetres. And I'm going to trim the length of it down. So the length of a UK A4 sheet is 29.7 centimetres. Now this needed to be divided into 6 sections. So the easiest way to do that was to trim it down to 27 centimetres. Okay, and that just gives us a little bit chopped off like that. Okay, then we need to do some scoring. So looking at Sue's card, as I said, it's divided, the back of the card is divided into 6 sections. So what I did was worked out how many 6s I could get out of my 29.7. It worked out better at 27 centimetres. So what we're now going to do is we're going to score this. Oh, actually, sorry, not 6 centimetres. 6 sections of 4.5 centimetres. So we're going to go along and we're going to score this in 4.5 centimetre increments. So that is scored at 4.5. Didn't write my measurements down, but we can work it out. 4.5 and 9. Would you believe it? I had a, oh, there's my tiny scrap of paper. 4.5, 9, 13.5, but I'm sure you can all add up in increments of 4.5. 13.5, 18, and 22.5. And that should give us our 6 sections. Okay. And then what we needed for the inside of the card is another piece of cardstock. And that needs to be 8.5 by, I wrote it down, 8.5 by 10.5. So I'm going to cut this piece. This is the other half of the sheet, but I've trimmed it down to use it for something else. So we've got 8.5 by 10.5. Just going to take a sliver off there, and I mean a sliver. Right, so we've got 10.5 that way, and we want it by 8.5. Okay, it's 10.5 by 8.5. Okay, and then I can get my trimmer out of the way. And then what we need to do, oh, I just realised I've flung a little person on the floor. What we need to do then is to fold and score these sections. So starting from the left hand side, that needs to be a mountain fold, quite appropriate when we use a mountain paper. So that's that way. And then we need a valley fold. So that's that way. And then another mountain fold. So that's that way. And then another valley fold. I can turn it over at this point. That's that way. And then finally a mountain fold. So for this one, I'm just going to fold that in. So for those of you, when you were younger, at school maybe, if you made those creatures that had dangly concertina legs, that's basically what you've done. Look, a concertina. And I think, and Sue explains on her blog that she's called it a flying seagull card because of what it looks like looking down on it. Okay, and then our center panel is going to fit onto the middle of our card. Oh, I wonder if I can pick it up. This center panel is going to fit on the middle of our card in there. Like that. Okay. Like that. So that when you fold it, if you fold that end in and that end under, it will fit in a standard C6 envelope. Okay, but before we add that middle panel, we need to do some decorating. So I'm bringing back in my piece of the DSP, and we need to put some patterned paper in the right order. Now you can see when that middle panel is on there that you're not actually going to see much of the bits behind because they're going to stand like that. So we don't need to decorate these two center panels, but we do need to decorate the one we're going to stick on top and these two here. Now I'm sure that you will know that in order to do that, we have to cut our way across because I want this mountain scene to run across the card. So we need to cut our paper across. So I've cut it down, and I've cut it down to 10 centimetres because the card is 10.5. And we know that each one of these sections is 4.5. So we're going to cut at 4 centimetres. So this is going to be our first section, which is going to go on there. And then we need another 4.5, which is going to go on here. Now this bit is 8.5 wide. So we need to cut a panel that's 8 by 10, and that's going to fit on there. And then we need 2 more 4.5 centimetre panels to go on the other end. So that piece is going to go on there. And we need 1 more. And that piece is going to go on that panel there. So we can start sticking those all together. So I'm going to remove this middle piece and stick that on first so we don't get in a muddle with the order of our panels. And again, I'm using Tombow multi-purpose glue, but you can use whichever glue you prefer. I prefer this because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, so that's that one on there. And then we're going to start sticking our panels onto the base card. So working across the card. And this may not be exactly how Sue did her card, but I think this is how this is going to work for me. Okay, so making sure that you get them level. So this is our next piece. And as I said, whatever pattern you do, if you cut your cardstock going across from left to right, then you'll have it in the right order to join the pattern up again. So the picture works. And as I said, make sure that it's lined up. Have I not cut that one right? No. Oh my goodness me, I did this in my last video. What do they say? Measure twice, cut once. Cut it at 4.5, which is the same size as the panel. So we're going to have a tiny sliver that doesn't match up, but hopefully that will work itself out. So do as I say, not as I do. Isn't that the saying? Right, let's try that again, shall we? So that piece is going to go on there. That's better. I think we'll get away with it because it's not a big pattern, but I think... oh, for goodness sake. I think if it was a very precise pattern, we'd have had to cut another piece of cardstock paper there, but I think we just about got away with that. Okay, and then these ones go on this section here. Have I done the same thing again? Oh my word. Yes, I have. So just to recap, these sections need to be 4 centimetres wide, not 4.5, because the card is 4.5 wide. I'm going to have to de-gum my trimmer. So that's that one, and then this last one, which I've done exactly the same thing on. So let's trim that down before I get any glue on it. And we want that 4, don't we? So we'll just chop off the end because we're not going to see that piece. Anyway, okay. Oh, do you ever get the impression you should give up? Oh, it's obviously been one of those days. That's why you shouldn't craft when you're tired. Okay, so let's just stick this last piece of card on. Okay, so there we go. So we've got our picture going across there. You can see that. Look, we've got our picture going across, and then when we pop that piece back in the middle, we've got the picture complete. Okay, now at this point, this is where I think that Sue Stampfield is a little bit of a magician, because she has attached this middle bit onto the card here. Now, I had to think about it, and I think the best way to do it is with some very, very narrow red liner tape, because I tried it on my prototype. I always make a toil, if you like, of a card. I tried it on some cheap white card prototype, and our tear and tape is too wide. Now, I don't know whether Sue has very carefully run a line of glue down there, which you probably could, but I am going to very carefully run a line of red liner tape down the middle. And you want it the whole length, because the piece of card is the same length as the base card. And I'm just going to trim that off at this end, because we don't want a bit sticking out, do we? Okay. So this is probably the narrowest you can buy. I think it's 0.5 centimetre, if that. Let's have a little look. Yeah, just under 0.5 centimetre. I know it's the narrowest one I've got anyway, but you could, as I said, you could use wet glue. I suspect as well you could probably use our Seal Plus. Let's measure that and see how wide that is. Yeah, now see that's a lot wider, but you could, I guess, almost fold it over. But anyway, I'm going with this for today. Right, only trouble with red liner tape sometimes is getting the backing off. Now, because it's such a small area that we're actually sticking this down, that's the other reason that I've used red liner tape, because that has got to hold the whole card panel. Now, I've cut this card panel so it is slightly narrower than these two sections here. And we need to centre it. So flatten your card out and level it up with the top and the bottom. And, oh, goodness sake, allow a little gap each side. And if it's level along the bottom, then it should be level along the top. There we go. And that is the... Oh, you'll never guess what I've done. I've put it on the wrong way up, haven't I? Oh, my goodness. I really do need to stop crafting. Okay, and because it's stuck on with red liner tape, isn't it? Okay, let's try that again. Make sure when you stick your mountain range on that you have your card up the right way and not upside down like I've just done. Turned it upside down, didn't I, to take the top off the tape. Right. Hopefully that won't show. Okay, let's try that again. really narrow tape along the middle. And don't stick it on that way. Stick it on that way, Julia. I'll tell you, this is the second card that I've done today. And the first one was a little bit of a nightmare as well, because I kept doing things the wrong way up. Okay, right, so as we said before, line it up at the bottom. Make sure you've got your gaps equidistant each side. And then if it's lined up flush with the bottom, it should line up flush with the top. There, that's better. Oh, I hope those of you watching out there are laughing along with me and thinking, yeah, even she does it wrong. I've been a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator for 10 years. And, yeah, even us lengthy demonstrators make mistakes. Okay, so there we go. So there's the flying, whatever you want to call it, seagulls that Sue called it. Okay, and then what I've done, I think I've lost him again now. I cut out, here he is. I cut out one of the walkers. So this is the die here, the walker with the little lamp. And I've cut him out of some Starry Sky. And we're going to pop him on to the mountain. But before I do that, I want to emboss. And, oh, I've got a finger that I've caught on the cling film box, would you believe? And it keeps bleeding on things. What I want to do is emboss the moon on here. And I probably should have done that before I stuck it down. So what I'm going to do, let's get that stamp out. So these are photopolymer. And this is the moon. I'm just going to grab a block to put that on. And I want it the right way up because there are some lines going across the moon. And it's sort of like clouds floating across the moon. So I'm going to put it the right way up. And then I'm going to bring in some Versamark. And I'm going to, yeah, so you definitely need to do this before you stick the middle in, but I think I can wing it. I'm going to, actually, I'm going to stamp it there. And then I'm going to bring some white embossing powder in. My little tidy trays. I'm just going to grab one of those. This is where everything starts falling off my desk. I need a bigger craft room. I need a bigger desk. Oh my goodness me. My jacket has fallen off the back of the chair. It's all a drama. Right. So, there's my moon. There's my moon. So I'm just going to put some white embossing powder over that. And again, I've forgotten to do my embossing buddy. But hopefully we'll get away with that. Okay, I'm just going to screw the lid back on in case I knock it over. The way I'm going today, that's entirely possible. Okay, now I'm bringing in my heat gun. So please excuse the noise. And we're just going to heat that white embossing powder. There we go. Okay, make sure we've got that all heated. So that's there. And as you know, the moon travels across the sky depending on where you're walking, doesn't it? So I think we'll have another one in the middle here. And then we'll do another one dropping down behind the white here, I think. Okay, that's that. Bring back in my tidy tray. And then now when I'm delivering my classes, I tell ladies not to emboss more than one thing at a time. But, you know, again, do as I say, not as I do. In an effort to speed this video up. Right, now, again, I forgot to use my embossing buddy, so I've got a little bit of embossing powder where I don't want it. So I'm just going to go round. So the embossing buddy is an anti-static bag, basically. Just going to go around and get rid of what I don't want. Put the lid back on. Powder back in the pot. these little tidy trays I already had, but Stampin' Up! Now actually sells an embossing kit, which is a really good investment if you enjoy doing heat embossing. It has a tray, some tweezers, and the embossing buddy. Right, so excuse me again while I just heat this. That one. So there's our 3 moons heat embossed. Let's warp that a little bit, but we can straighten that out. And then the other thing I wanted to do, in the stamp set, there are these stars. Now, you have to be very careful with embossing this kind of thing, because if you press too hard with the Versamark, what actually happens is that you end up with a splodge and not neatly embossed stars. So let's give it a go. I'll have some up here. So again, don't press too hard. Let's see how that's come out. Again, I forgot the embossing buddy. Let me get it on the desk and then I'll use it next time. Okay, so I'm just gonna, again, we've got some marks. So this is picked up on the wet glue along this line here. So we'll just brush that off. And then I'll show you the difference using the embossing buddy. So I'll just heat that up. Now you get away with a few flecks on this because it can be atmospheric, but this is what the embossing buddy is. Let me just show you. This is an embossing buddy, so it's basically, I mean, it smells almost like baby powder. So I just want to put some more stars here, so we'll rub it over there, and then let's see what difference it makes. So as I said, it's an anti-static bag. Some more stars there. Get our powder. You can see on this one, it's only picked it up on where the Tombow is still a bit sticky around the edge. I'm just going to get rid of those bits there. I'll heat those, move that out of the way. Now the other thing you can do, if you find that using a heat gun does warp your cardstock a little bit, you can heat it from underneath and that will sort of rebend it back. And I think we need some just over here. So we'll put some, actually we'll go with some here, I think. So we'll go with some there. And we'll go with some over on this section here. Sort of there, I think. Right, so let's put some powder on those. There you go. You can see, look, the embossing buddy's done its job properly this time. There's no extras. And again on that one, it's just catching on the edge of the Tombow. Right, so let's just melt those and then we'll be done with that. So we've got some here. And then we've got some here. Now you do have to be a little bit careful when you're using a heat gun not to touch it as soon as you've heated it, because you can smudge it. You just need to give it a few minutes to cool. Okay, so there's our stars on there. Okay, and then what I did was, as I said before, I cut out a little walker. Now because these are silhouettes, you can actually turn them the other way. So that's the way that this is the way that it popped out of the die, our little man with his lantern. But obviously, because it's a silhouette, you can turn it the other way as well. So I'm going to pop him on there like that. And if I wanted to put another one, I could put one on this side facing the other way, but he's just going to go on there for now. And I'm not going to raise him up because, him or her, because obviously the card is a folded card and that makes it a little bit bulkier anyway. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on there and we're going to stick him right there on the mountain looking at the stars. Okay, so that's the basis of our card. And when we fold it to put it in the envelope, we're going to see more of the left hand side. So can you just see the shape of that now? Okay, and that will stand up like that on the mantelpiece. Okay, so, or wherever you choose to stand, it might be a windowsill. So when we fold it up, we are going to fold that end in like that, and that, no, we're not going to do that because that's too long. We're going to fold that end like that and that end like that. So you've got the 3 panels and then it then opens out. Okay, so if we want a greeting, it's got to be on this section here. So I think I might go for wishing you joy in this next adventure. What else have we got? You belong among the stars, mountains of thanks. Yeah, we're going to go wishing you joy in this next adventure. So let's just find that one. That's that one there. And again, we're going to do that with white embossing powder. So I'm just going to check that that's going to fit on my piece of cardstock, which it will. So we need to give, let's put the card out of the way. We need to give this a wipe over with the embossing buddy. The sentiment on a block. And then we need to stamp that with the Versamark. Okay. And I'm going for the middle because I'm going to use a punch to take the ends off in a minute. So that's that on there. And then bring back in my little tidy tray and my white embossing powder. And hopefully, because I remembered to use my embossing buddy, we've got a nice crisp greeting. And because I didn't press too hard, it hasn't smudged. Okay, and we're just going to... Oh. Sorry about that, guys. I just had my low power mode come on. We're just going to heat this. I'm hoping that you didn't lose all of the picture there, but if you did, my apologies. I'm nearly done. Okay, so that's our greeting heated. And then I'm going to bring in one of our newish punches. I can never remember the names of these, but this is like a tag punch and it's got these 2 edges. So you've got this sort of serrated edge and this one that looks more like the serrations on a postage stamp or a ticket. And that's the one I want to use. You can do 3 different sizes through this punch. If I hold it up nearer the camera, you can see these layers, 1, 2 and 3. So you can cut your cardstock into 3 different sizes. And that is why I stamped that nearer the top, because I do need to trim this off a little bit. So I'm just going to bring in my little trimmer. And we're just going to take a little bit off there. Oh my goodness me. And check that. Yeah, see that then fits there perfectly. So let's pop that out of my way before I do myself an injury on the guillotine. Okay, so I'm just going to slide that in. Let's make sure it's in as far as it'll go. And then we're going to slide the other end in. Now, it might be that I need to cut this down a little bit, but I'm going to stick it to one side, so I think we'll get away with that. Okay, so let's just slide this end in as far as it'll go and stamp it. Okay, and it gives us that nice sort of torn ticket effect. Let's get rid of the ends, which I think is quite nice for a masculine card, although this could be a lady's card. Okay, let's get that punch out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I want this, when the card is folded, it's going to be like that in the envelope, and I want the greeting to go across two sections but not have to fold in half. So if I stick it on that section there, it's going to have to fold in half when we fold the card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it onto this middle section here, so that when the card is folded, oh no, we can't do that because it will stick out. No, we can't do that. Right, we'll stick it onto the end here, on this middle section here, but only on this end. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on here, and then it won't affect the card being folded. And once the card is stood up, it will protrude, if you like, from that middle section. So let's just fold our card over, so we know where it's going to go, like that. And we need it tucked under there, so it's not sticking out the side of the card. Otherwise, that will stop us putting it in an envelope. Okay, so when we fold it up, that's what you'll see coming out of the envelope. And then when we unfold it and fold this section at the back, it will go across those sections like that. Okay, so quite pleased with how that came out. Thank you, Sue Stampfield, for sharing your picture of your cards on the demonstrator Facebook page, and I've really enjoyed working out how you did that. Thank you. So that's it from me for now. I'll be back soon with some more projects along this line. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Happy stamping.